amigos? Ahora estoy aquí en una entrevista con Michael Weikath de Helloween, donde vamos a hablar sobre el nuevo álbum. Michael, how are you?
Yes, hello. I'm fine. Greetings to Monterey.
Do you remember the last time
Yes,
here?
I think so. I think so.
Well, this is an epic moment because we are talking about the new album from Helloween. How do you feel about that?
We are very proud and we think we have done something really, really great. And we're also very happy that it ended like this, that like the result of the album and the sound and the tracks and the melodies and everything is the way it is. And we're extremely proud and happy.
Well, about the last tour, the Pumpkins United was a great tour. It's a epic moment in Halloween. But do you imagine that this reunion will be temporary? Only
No,
one time?
we try to go on as long as we can. And try to take all the possibilities, and that's why we named the album Helloween, because we also got rid of the moniker Pumpkins United. I mean, it's still on the posters for the tour and stuff, but Pumpkins United is more or less of like a contractual thing that binds certain members to the other construct, which is like the Helloween Limited whatever company. And so we said, do we want to skip that Pumpkins United, and we're just Helloween, okay? Because everything runs so fine, we're happy with each other. And so that's also why we didn't call the album Skyfall, The Impact, or Fear of the Fallen, or Out for the Glory, or Indestructible. The Sasha said, like, as we're all getting along so well, why not call it Halloween in 2021, right? And that's what it was.
Well, about the last tour, we are here in Mexico and here in Monterrey. We are so in shock that you start that tour in Monterrey. Why you chose this city to start that epic tour?
I really don't know. It's all a matter of the planning, actually. And sometimes, I mean, last time it started in Mexico City because of whatever, and I got a horrible flu, by the way, which kept going for 1.5 months until Madrid. I still had it, and then we had a little break. So no, it's just a matter of the planning. And actually, if that comes along, if it happens, then I'm always glad if it's like that. If the planning turns out to be fine and doable, then yeah, everybody can be relieved.
Yeah. Well, about the album, it's the first time after so many years that you come back to the studio with Kai and Michael Kiske. How do you feel working again together?
Well, it was amazing. It was also we had a pre-production time of like almost 2 months in November and December of 2019, where we took care of arranging and harmonizing everything. We had all the demo tracks, and they were fed into the system of the Charlie Bauerfeind, of the producer. And so we've been doing groundwork on the tracks, kind of like changing harmonies, changing chords, adding choirs, and editing little things, like trying to improve the tracks that we had from the demos, and the demos were already pretty clear of like how things have to go, and parts were added or deleted. And until that was done, we had kind of a great sense of doing things together, because everybody was there. Then after that time of the pre-production, they went into the recording of the drums, the real serious recordings, onto the sessions that the Charlie Bauerfeind had done then on his computer. And from that point on, everybody went more or less separate in recording things.
Yeah.
One recorded with that engineer and the other one with that, and then we got everything finished before the COVID madness would strike. And so we still had to record a few things afterwards, which we could do at the places where we were. It was permitted to take like a taxi and go to a studio and do something that goes with your job, right? So, but we had most of the stuff finished before. There were only a few things left, some vocals, some guitars, some special effects, some keyboards that could be added later on via internet, right? So that everybody was working on their respective parts, and then it was all sent to Charlie Bauerfeind, who put it into his sessions on the computer. And then finally the mix was done in real time in between Tenerife, Canary Islands, where we were here with the Darius and Charlie Bauerfeind at the computer, at the screen, and it was connected directly with the Valhalla studio in New York of the Ronald Prent. So they were real time doing the mixes, and they did 3 or 4 different mixes. And I think the 4th one was the final one. That's what you get to hear on the record.
Yeah. Which was the song the most complicated to do in this album?
Oh, all of them were pretty, intense. I mean, you can guess that the Skyfall wasn't easy. The Robot King wasn't so easy, and there's details and all these things, but there's also, you can say there's parts and every track, like for instance Fear of the Fallen, the twin vocal solo is extremely fast, and then you're getting older, you're not getting younger, so you're sitting there and you're trying to do your very best, right? And sometimes you just say, I can't do this, let the Sasha play it or something. Huh? But then there you go, and so we recorded all the 3 guitars, because the Charlie, he wanted to have that effect from the live DVD, that you have all that raw power of the 3 signals, and he wanted to pick the best magical or powerful moments out of the 3 possible recordings, of which everyone took a few turns, right? And so then he wanted to have that same energy that you got from the DVD, because he did it and he knew it, and that's what he wanted to have yet again. And I think that kind of worked out.
Yeah. Well, I remember saw in the show. Obviously, it's epic. See Michael Kiske and Andy and Kai Hansen together singing. But in the studio, it's some fight of egos or something, or everything it's okay in the studio with.
We have a good time, really, and sometimes we are even joking about the old egomaniac times and whatever. And sometimes we're trying to create difficult situations for the fun of it. We mimic kind of like our bad old behavior, kind of like, no, I won't do this now because whatever, and then everybody has a good laugh. Like, I mean, we're not mature. I mean, we're all crazy guys, and we will probably never be adults or whatever, but we have a bit more experience, and there's no need to fight among each other, really, because you can always find like a good solution, and then there's like everybody involved. If there is a little problem, you can find a solution, right? And so, for instance, for the Skyfall, we have several versions, right? I mean, there's like a version where there's a lot more Kai Hansen singing on it than on the other official version. So if you were so inclined and you want to hear that other one and you like it better or whatever, you even have that.
Okay. Well, I hear the album. I really like it. Was a great album, and obviously it's a classical lineup with Michael Kiske and Kai Hansen, but you want, obviously the Keeper of the Seven Keys is a best album of Helloween. You wanna try to make the same sound in this album, or you wanna take different way.
Supposedly, yes. I mean, we used many things from the 80s and also like the Eventide multi-effect that was invented, I think, around 1981. It's like a multiprocessor of effects, echoes and rooms and ambiences and all you can imagine, choruses, whatever. That one thing is doing everything, and you hear it on most of all the signals on this album, because we had the idea of taking that one for everything. And so naturally, surely, we also have other effects or echoes from the Pro Tools system of the Charlie, right? But we use that Eventide thing very, very often. Like, for instance, if you listen to the beginning of Down in the Dumps, I just know how much we have done with that. Like, each and every echo that there is and reverb, you know, it's all been made with that thing while we were recording it. It was also recorded at the same time, and so at many other passages. And we were looking to use, well, mostly old Marshall amps that we own, that we had from the Walls of Jericho, or the other times, and good amps that we have, like a Vox AC30, and we profiled those old things with the Sasha and the Charlie. Right, the Sasha was playing the signal on the guitar, and he was doing the setting with cabinets and everything. So the Charlie would save it as a profile, and that's what we used for this album. And we went predominantly Marshall, right? On the other records, ever since The Dark Ride, we had the triple rectifier of Boogie or whatever on that thing mainly. Then later on, we mainly had the Engel Savage amps, which have like a different German sound. And for this time around, we went, let's go incorporate 80s a little bit in all the means that we have nowadays, right? So it was a mix of 80s measures and very, very modern filter stuff of the Pro Tools and the digital. But he also has like so many analog devices to put in there, which all gets recorded. And we also recorded the drums on 24-track tape again and put it into the system, right? And then after all that mix was finished and whatever, all the signals and all the data was sent to the Ronald Trent in New York, and he has 100% analog studio there. So everything that was digital was converted to analog again and then recorded for the master and the mix.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, who was your chemistry with Kai Hansen to play together again in the studio?
Yeah, you know, when it happens, it happens. So it was like that one point in time when the Sasha said, you know, I can play some serious rhythm guitar here if you want to. So I'd say, you know, the two jokers of you know, you go out and you play your old twin vocal stuff from the 80s, from the Keeper records, and I'm just strumming a proper rhythm guitar here, yeah, because he can. And so that's how we did it, you know. And then it's very often that the Kai Hansen and me, we are going out there playing our twin vocal stuff, the twin vocal solos and everything. That's lots of fun, you know, because the old magic surely is still there. I mean, it was always there right from the beginning. We once met in a garage, in his garage, where we had like two Marshall stacks standing, and we wanted to check out if we match as guitarists, right? And that was more than successful. We were pretty impressed and satisfied with ourselves back then, the first time we tried. Because he was supposed to play a little bit in my old band then, and then quickly he wanted to do his Iron Fist band again, and said like, you can play that too if you want. And so we did that. That's how it all happened. And I had a similar thing with the Sasha right here at this table where I'm sitting now when he came here. So we could meet and talk and see like how we would match, right? So we had two little amps standing here. We were playing some stuff, and we also had some magic harmonic moments, you know, and that's not so easy. So now you have three guitarists who are not so different from each other that match each other very good. You cannot take any other guitarist and put them together and expect them to sound great together. So we are very lucky that we are the three guys that we are, and we have so many approaches in common, so you can go and have that powerful result that you actually get what you get to hear.
Yeah. Well, in this album, what is your favorite song?
I have no favorite songs. I don't work that way. I'm really sorry. It's just I'm too logical about things, and for me everything that we have is like a family album. So even if you go back to any other record before, for me each and every track is really important, and I would be very sad if suddenly it would be deleted from the overall memory of the world, if something suddenly wouldn't exist anymore, even it was like a real bad boring b-side or whatever. I think it all has its importance.
Yeah. Uh, we love this lineup, and you think Halloween will stay like this with all together?
That's what we are trying. That's what we're trying. I mean, actually we're feeling pretty good about the whole thing, and we had those huge successes with the Wacken show, being a headliner there in front of almost 300,000 people, and then you also had the Rock in Rio appearance, where that was like the cream of the crop, that thing, right? And there were also kind of like 300,000 or how many people there. It was amazing, and you can look at that happening in the YouTube channels whenever you find it there, and that was just magical. And then when you are having something like that, you feel that you are doing something really special, and that maybe the whole thing is kind of important to like a higher being, maybe God or something, and he put us there for a reason. Sometimes we really feel like that. You go there and like, we are not gods or whatever, but it seems to be very important, particularly when you have the reaction of the crowd, of the people, because we had it very often that they had to cry. Like at a very early point in the concert, they all couldn't help themselves, but had to let go and cry and release lots of tears. And they some of them told me afterwards, I don't know what was happening to me. I just had to freaking cry and sob. And I don't know how that happened, but I had to. I got released by the music and everything. And so that's something very special that one shouldn't underestimate. And so at least I think that there must be something very important about it, and the others think so too. So we're trying to go as long as we can.
Well, uh, obviously after this pandemic, when the shows come back, what do you think? What we will see in the shows of Halloween? You are thinking about that or not yet?
Yeah, we have to rehearse some of the new tracks from the new album. And then, we need some divine intervention, right? For everything to be back to normal and whatever, so that you can hopefully forget about that episode with the COVID that there is. And the thing is, I'm not a politician, so I'm not responsible for what's going to happen next, right? It's basically the way people want to see things, and what things are going to happen next, which I'm not so clairvoyant, sometimes I have good visions and stuff, but I wouldn't dare say what really is going to happen. So if you want to ask me, I hope for the very best. Everybody ought to hope for the very best. But then it's also in the hands of everyone, what's going to happen.
Wow. Well, in this time, I want to talk about a little history of Halloween, if you want. uh, in the beginning, obviously, you are the Halloween is the father of power metal. But how in your local scene in that years, how the people receive the new style? Because the heavy metal has a traditional style, but you bring a new style. How receive the people? The obviously the heavy metal is more aggressive and thematics with aggressive too. Yeah, and you bring more positive things in the lyrics and things like that. How receive the people in that year's this new style?
It was that we had some little appearances before we had any recordings, right? Before there was anything published, the first thing was the death metal sampler, where you had the Metal Invaders and the Ernst of Life on there. And that thing basically exploded into the people, or say the reactions of the people exploded immediately. I don't know, because the way it sounded, or the chords, or the guitar sound, or whatever it was, the overall impact. And then we did the mini album and the Walls of Jericho, and there were like record sales, you know, and it was like we were at home in Hamburg, we were running around, and suddenly everybody was talking about Helloween, 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 right? And you went somewhere, and somebody in the corner said, you know, those were the Helloween guys and stuff. And we also had one or two little shows in Hamburg, and yeah, the club was full, and there were lots of people who didn't really know what to think, what Helloween was. You know, many said it's a new black metal band, and others said it's a new speed metal band, and they're very good and whatever. And we also came to France, and we played La Locomotive in Paris, and there were lots of hardcore thrasher fans, right? And they were very aggressive, and they were beating each other up, and so we also got some, you know, some specks of blood flying on the stage, and they were not really sure who we were, but they came to the show because they thought it's fast and I can act out here, right? It took maybe a year or 1.5 till everybody had like a picture of what that Helloween band was, that there was also like a strong melodic part to it. To what some people didn't even react. It was just because we had the double bass and the speed and whatever, and that's what they were reacting upon. And then when we did the Keeper One, I remember we went to Paris as well for promotion, and we actually got slagged, you know, by a few fans who were there with their fanzines, and they said, you know, you betrayed the speed metal because you're doing commercial shitty stuff here on the Keeper, and there's laughable stuff, you know, with that Michael Kiske who's singing like a howling boy. You know, that's not what we want. We want more aggressive metal, right? That was a reaction at times. You know, it took such a long time till people had, you know, kind of agreed what Helloween is. It took some time.
Well, and Germany is an important country of metal, and it's important in power metal or melodic things, but in the thrash metal too. You have a rivalry with the thrash metal of Germany and Helloween?
No, actually, we had a few shows recently with Creator and stuff, you know, and they're doing their stuff, we're doing our stuff. I had a long talk with a few of their members. When we were in Chile, actually, we were sitting at a table and had coffee and beers and stuff, and you know, talk about this and that, you know, and you don't have to be, you know, like a power metal band member or like a thrash band member, you know. There's like a few views that you share, that you have in common, because you're maybe like an artist playing in a band, which is like a different outlook on life, because you get to see so many countries and what's going on in those countries, and so you get to travel there and see what's going on, and so you can compare your views, and you get like a quintessence of things that make up your opinion about the world and what's happening, right? And so that can sometimes take a long time to just refer about that or compare opinions or whatever over a beer or a coffee and whatever. So there's no concurrence in that. I think even though I can imagine there's some extreme bands who go like, yeah, the Helloween are only in it for the freaking money and they don't care about their fans and they betrayed the metal anyways. I mean, that's what a few guys said in the beginning, because they were taking us for something else. They were disappointed when we came with all the melodies and when the Michael Weikath came into the band. That was like the worst to them. They said you betrayed the heavy metal.
Yeah. Now Halloween is in the throne of the power metal, but you think that, well, what do you think about the next band to take this throne in power
I
metal?
wouldn't know. I really don't know. I mean, there's a few things that I really like for instance the Night Flight Orchestra or whatever. And I mean, maybe that stuff they do is kind of repetitive, but it doesn't matter, you know. I think it's really a good idea to do something like that. And I hope, you know, there will be lots more young people and bands coming up, you know, doing something in that direction, whatever it is, you know. And there's other stuff. I mean, I'm like a huge Muse fan, for instance, right? And obviously the Muse, they made it, but it took them so long. I was watching that and I wasn't quite sure, you know, will they ever get famous and maybe play stadiums or something, which I was wishing for them, right? And then they do that other stuff, and then they go Queen, and then they go U2, and then, you know, that they're going to do something eventually. And I'm pretty curious what's going to happen. I'm also curious on what other bands may appear. You know?
Yeah. Well, you have some plans to Latin America.
Oh yes, hopefully. I mean, the thing is, there's some announced tour dates for the next year, and first of all, I hope that that will come together, and that we can continue kind of uninterrupted, right? And so, it remains to be seen what's going to happen. That's sadly the point at which we are, because we can't really tell what is going to happen. You know? And I hope for the best, naturally.
Well, and now you are in Tenerife. Why you live? You changed the country to live.
Yeah. It is because it was possible, right? And first of all, I'm you know, I believe in God, and I was Catholic until I quit the German church, right? And they had those weird laws that were established actually by the Nazi government. They said like you got to pay a church tax, and for me back then that was like 360 marks a month for church tax, and so I had to quit the church because I didn't see the point. And they are coming with lots of taxation on their citizens, right? Whatever it's for. And at a certain point, I didn't want to pay rent and stuff, and so I found a very nice apartment down here. At school, I had learned some Spanish, right? And it took me another, I don't know, 2 or 3 years when I was down here to actually speak one sentence in Spanish, right? It may be fine if you know the words or the grammar or something, and still you have to make sentences out of it and speak freely without getting headaches. I still get some headaches if I have to talk with like the Canario Castellano that they're speaking here, you know. And I think people in Madrid would hardly understand what people here in Canary Islands are talking if you let them, right? And it's full with idioms, things that you have to know. You're better born here to know these expressions and what they mean and indicate, right? And you probably have some crazy things in Monterey that nobody else would understand, right? Because it's tricky and funny, and it has humor, and you have to know the story behind it, why that word is that, right? And so it took me some time to get along here, but then I did. And it's Europe, and at that time being, I came down here 25 years ago. It was so that you had the choice as a European where to go and where to work, right? And it was because I didn't have to pay so much for this nice apartment. And in Germany, they would have actually kicked my butt for the little bit of money that I had to pay for here only. And in Spain, it was that they got rid of Franco only 10, 12 years earlier. I'm not so sure, let it be 15, I don't know. And so they were in the process of growing inside Europe, and many things here were not really so expensive. So if you wanted to buy like a microwave, it was maybe like half the money that you were asked for in Germany, right? And it's like if you want to have an internet connection with your mobile phone in Germany, you pay at least, I don't know, 58. And if you're looking at an even better deal with a better speed, and for instance, Romania, you pay only €8. So that's really strange, right? And so it was kind of like that back then here. So I had the possibility to get something, and that's what I did. It was only because it was possible. You could have also gone to the south of Spain or whatever, but it was just here that we met like an immobiliarist or whatever that's called. And so he was like a trustworthy guy and did all the business. So I had no difficulties, luckily. Sometimes you come to meet some traitors and you just have bad luck and trouble ever since. And I was just kind of very lucky.
Yeah. And in this pandemic, how changed your life?
For me, there's not so much of a change. That doesn't mean I don't want to complain. That doesn't mean that. But for me, there's not so much of a change because I'm sitting here on my sofa, and for some weeks it was only possible to get food to take home or order home. That's actually what I didn't do. I did a little mistake and I used some canned food and whatever, and then I felt really bad. But other than that, when everything opened up a little bit again, so I could go to a restaurant and have something proper to eat, I felt kind of better. And apart from that, I have this type of life of waking up really late. And then, my daily sleep cycle always changes. It's always going around in a cycle. And it's never the same time then I wake up. And so for me, there was no change. There was a drastic change for all the other people, also for the people who have their business or their hotels or their little restaurants or their little stores. And for them, it was extremely heavy, right? And maybe I'm kind of lucky, so I can sit here with my big mouth and talk, right?
Yeah.
And I thank God for that.
Yeah, Michael. I saw behind you the guitar.
This one.
Yeah, you can show me. Ah,
Custom Flying V. It's been built by some guy called Igor in Germany, and he has a company called VIV Guitars. And this
that's cool.
he built like 2 of those for me. You can hear this one as the rhythm guitar on Out for the Glory.
Okay.
For all the other rhythm guitars, we use the 58 Gibson Les Paul Cherry Sunburst edition reissue, but it has the same kind of pickups inside. So they sound very similar to the 58 Les Paul and this Flying V. They sound very similar because of the wood. It's both mahogany and the pickups are very similar. They're like 59er models, and the 58 has 58 paths, and so they sound very similar, luckily.
Yeah. Well,
I have 2 of those. The other one, this one is tuned in D, and the other one is tuned in D sharp. And you see that one in Rock and Rio. That's the other blue one.
Okay. Well, to finish, I want to say thank you for this time. thank you for all the interview, and I hope see you again here in Monterrey to talk face to face.
Muchas gracias para dejarme hacerlo en inglés. Lo siento, pero ¿no? Mucho más fácil para mí. Gracias.
Bueno, para quien no sepa, el señor Michael Weikath habla muy bien español, pero
que lo digan la gente, pero no es la verdad en realidad. Muy limitado, lo siento.
Muy bien, Michael. Thank you for all. And do you want to say something to the people here in Mexico?
Yeah, thanks very much for all the support that you've always given us, and you supported us so well even before we didn't know, right? We were told that there's so many fans in particularly Mexico, and we heard the rumors, right? Like how wild and how heartfelt you were all pursuing the music, collecting the albums, and you begged us to eventually come and play, and no one ever told us. So that's crazy. That's really crazy. Now I actually have to call someone else within the next minute, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and I really enjoyed the interview. And I wish you a very good time. You know, pray for better times.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you. Y bueno, amigos, nos vemos próximamente en siguientes entrevistas. Y suscríbanse y nos vemos pronto.